Hello there. Thanks a lot for coming by PosterCentral.com's video blog today. I'm Pete Howard, and today I've got what just has to be, one of the prettiest multi-act concert posters ever made, don't you think? I mean, just take a look at this with that bright pink and the way it plays off the yellow and the black and everything. I mean, just the word that comes to mind certainly is pretty. In fact, the poster has actually 5 colors. You've got the pink and the yellow, and you've got black and white, of course white being the color of the board, but it's still used, and then red venue information up top. So sure enough, there are 5 colors for this. So this is from the spring of 1965, an R&B package tour down south, of course. And for this particular one, as you can see from the venue information, stamped up for this date only, stamped in, I should say, is Charleston, South Carolina County Hall. Of course, I added the South Carolina. People locally knew which state they were in. And above that, you might see, it's kind of clever, kind of fun, along the very top of the poster in red lettering, it does say, "The Spectacular Stars of '65." Now, this is a tour blank, as I said, and so it was used for several shows along the tour, and I will demonstrate that in just a moment. Also in the venue info, you can say it says pretty simply there, Wednesday, April 21, 8:30 p.m. until ? Nice, it could go late. Tickets $2 to $3 on sale at the usual places. And then, of course, everything below this white box up top from the black area on down is the permanent information as the way that tour blanks were back then, which I blogged about many times before. By the way, this particular specimen is in pretty rough condition. In fact, it's been restored. You can see all the patching on the back and everything. It was pretty darn damaged, but as a collector you like to get something whipped into shape a little bit, not over restored, but certainly enough to just give it, make it frameable and make it presentable and stuff. So speaking of the permanent portion there, as you can see there at the very top in the black box there, it does say those magical words, Supersonic Attractions Presents. Boy, they were great for these multi-act posters. And then the obvious headliner, not only on top but all the way across the poster, the only one is Jackie Wilson. And boy, he was just Mr. Showmanship. He was really killer on stage. On the charts though right now in '65, he was sort of in a current lull. He hadn't had a big hit actually in a couple of years. So what they did was they just put in his current single, the A and the B side. And of course, Danny Boy was Jackie's cover of the traditional 1800s Irish song, and then you have the B-side on there as well. Then we go to the second row, and we get to this second Rock and Roll Hall of Famer there, as you can see, with Solomon Burke. And interestingly, his photograph is the only floating head technique on this poster, which I always find charming and a throwback. And what's neat is for Solomon, the biggest hit of his career is listed on the poster. Isn't that great? Got to Get You Off My Mind was his highest charter, both in the R&B and pop worlds. And in fact, his only #1 record ever. It was #1 on the R&B chart for 3 weeks. So really fun to have Got to Get You Off My Mind on here. Not his best known song, looking back. Something like Everybody Needs Somebody to Love and a couple of others are more well known, but certainly this was, you can absolutely say, his biggest hit. Absolutely. And then its B-side is on there as well, which was called just Peepin' on the record, but the typesetter overdid it and put Peepin' in, which is what Solomon sings. Then next to Solomon, you've got the wonderful Ben E. King, Mr. Spanish Harlem and Stand By Me, right? Well, here on the poster, what they do, of course, is just put in his current single, and that would be 7 letters. About, of course, a man writing to his estranged girlfriend on 7 different days of the week, and that peaked at just number 11, Rhythm and Blues. Then you get to the next row, and guess who breaks the pattern of song titles? That's right, the king of the blues, B.B. King himself, and he gets a retro song title on there, perhaps because it was his theme song, and of course I'm talking about Every Day I Have the Blues. Now, 10 years earlier, in 1955, that had been BB's 10th straight top 10 rhythm and blues hit, so a real iconic piece for BB, absolutely. And by the way, I just love the way his name and the song title are in pink. That just tickles me pink. And speaking of, I have to put this poster down and rest my arms. Speaking of being tickled pink, little Stevie Wonder, look at that, huh? Boy, that yellow background right there next to BB, wow. None other than 14 years old on this concert poster. And the song title listed, no surprise there, his #1 smash from 1963, which was Fingertips Part 2, But of course, for advertising materials, you don't need the Part 2 stuff or anything, just good old fingertips. You know, Stevie was undergoing a real career lull right now. In fact, there was a lot of doubts about him, you know, around Motown. It's like, well, he had the one big hit when he was so young, 12, I think. But, you know, what are we going to do with him now? He just hadn't been able to do anything. And it sort of turns out, you know, looking back, that perhaps he wasn't been given the right songs for being such a young artist. But boy, late in '65, he put out Uptight, Everything's All Right. And starting in January '66, he hit the charts, you know, like a hurricane. And Stevie never looked back. Now, interestingly, Little Stevie Wonder is kind of outdated on this poster because, you know, his 45 RPM records as of the previous summer of 1964 didn't use it. He was billed just as Stevie Wonder. And likewise, I've also blogged a really nice big multi-act poster from '64 with Stevie Wonder on it and not Little Stevie. So it's sort of funny how the next year he'd be back to Little Stevie Wonder. And it was the same poster printer too, so that's a little bit of a puzzler. And as a matter of fact, here's a shot of that very 1964 poster. Notice how there's no Little on there, just Stevie Wonder, even though it's from the year before, 1964. And again, I have blogged this poster separately. And then you've got the all-in-person banner, the yellow banner as you can see that says all-in-person, and then you hit the pink area down below, the big pink rectangle there with 4 acts in it, actually. And starts off with Texas singer, songwriter, guitarist Barbara Lynn, and her current 45 is on the poster, and that would be, as you can see there, It's Better to Have It. She had been #1 3 years earlier with her signature song, by the way, You'll Lose a Good Thing. Then you've got next to her the Thames, as you can see, and their 1964 single was called Hey Girl, Don't Bother Me. And for the sake of the poster, they dropped the hey part, but that was a non-charter. Then, next to them, you've got the poster's 6th member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's right, look at that. Gladys Knight and the Fabulous Pips, not just the Pips. And here on the poster is their current non-charting 45, Stop and Get a Hold of Myself. But what's interesting is you have to remember that Gladys Knight and the Pips, they already had a #1 and a #3 R&B record. But that was, you know, 3 or 4 years ago. So just like Stevie Wonder, they were undergoing a real career lull at this point. But boy, from 1967 onwards, when they hit with, you know, I Heard It Through the Grapevine before Marvin, and boy, they were still charting in the top 10 in the 1990s, for heaven's sake. So, wow, Gladys Knight and the Pips. And then you've got here, as you can see, Mitty Collier. I wonder if she was ever called Pretty Mitty. I mean, she certainly is in that photograph. Wow, I'll say. But the song title is No Faith, No Love, and that was just a mild, you know, top 30 rhythm and blues hit. No big deal for Mitty Collier. And then at the bottom of the poster, as you can see, there's Gorgeous George the MC. Boy, he's present on so many of these fun window cards. And B.B. King's Orchestra. And notice the way the typesetter at Posters Inc., I love this, they synchronized B.B. King's name down here, the typeset font, along with, it's the same font as the pink up here and down there. Now that's a poster designer really thinking and really planning it out. I think that's really a nice touch. I just love that. And it is Posters Inc. in Philadelphia that made this concert poster, by the way. And as I said, it is a tour blank, which means, you know, this would change from city to city. I've got a quick example to show you from just 4 days later. Here we have from a picture of it, of course, not the poster, from the Mosque Auditorium in Richmond, Virginia. And it's kind of cute. You still have the 2 little hands bookending the headline up there at the very top. And tickets are 50 cents cheaper. And they're on sale at 6 listed locations, not just at the usual places. So in Richmond, they decided to actually go ahead and line list them. But there it is. There's that poster from 4 days later. So, you know, how many different cities were made for this? Well, you never know with tour blanks unless you somehow stumble across the printer's records or promoter's records, which are probably, you know, harder to find than the posters themselves. So all we can do is speculate and drool over new examples as they turn up. So, the spectacular stars of '65, I'd call this one of the spectacular posters of '65 or any year in the 1960s. One of the prettiest you'll ever see. I just love it. Thanks a lot for dropping by. Next one I show you won't be as pretty, but hopefully just as much fun. Have a nice day and thanks for coming around. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.